This lesson, we are looking into quadratic inequalities. We're going to learn how to solve them algebraically, and we're going to learn how to interpret the solutions in the context of real-world problems. Now, this meme actually comes from mainly my personal experience. When a student asks me how to do quadratic inequalities, well, given I've taught them in lesson, and then they ask me again, and the first question I ask them is, "Have you drawn the graph?" And then, yeah. Anyway, have a go with the starter questions. These starter questions lay the foundation of what we need for the lesson moving forward. So pause the video, have a go at the question. When you're ready for the answers, you can press play. Here are the answers. Question 1, factorizing, should be an easy peasy stuff. And then question B, use a quadratic formula. When you use a quadratic formula, just be careful with the sign in the front, with the negative in the front, because when you do negative b plus and minus, b squared minus 4ac, the minus b is a negative 1. So you can either just make a plus in the calculator or just put a minus minus like what I did, what I wrote in there. And don't forget to put a bracket when you do the b squared. Yeah, okay, and you should get minus 1 plus or minus root 57 over 4. I live in this way because the decimal is just too not neat for me. Question 3, sketch a graph. When x squared is positive, we know the parabola is a U shape, so it's a 1 and 3, these two are the roots. And then for question 2, because of negative 2x squared, therefore the parabola is an N shape, being with the negative root on the left and on the positive root on the right. So what's a quadratic inequality? A quadratic inequality is an inequality that involves a quadratic expression. Sounds nonsense. Actually, it is nonsense. Like KFC, who doesn't know what KFC stands for? KFC obviously means keeps fattening children. Well, simple. Who doesn't know that, right? The general form of a quadratic inequality is ax squared plus bx plus c as a quadratic. Now you have less than equal to, greater equal to, less than or greater than 0. Okay, so we'll always have 0 on the one side. Like quadratic equation, you want to solve it, you always have 0 on one side. To solve a quadratic inequality, we're going to follow these steps below. Okay, if x squared is not positive, we'll try our best to make x squared positive by rearranging the whole equation, move to the other side. Okay, and we're going to solve the quadratic equation to find the roots. The roots are where the graph crosses the x-axis. We're going to learn, and then we're going to draw the graph, of course. If it's greater or greater equal 0, we highlight the section above the x-axis. So you can see it's highlighted in green in here. Now, the way to remember is if it's greater than 0, you will say greater than the greatest, smaller than the smallest. That's the answer line. I will show you what it means. If the answer is less than or less than equal 0, we highlight the section below the x-axis, which is a one-line answer. Okay. Next, we're going for example. So I have copy and pasted the steps in here so we can just try to follow it one by one. A, solve for x in the following inequalities. So question A, okay, so I'm going to rewrite x squared plus 5x minus 24 less than 0. For those that you know me, I like to rewrite the question. Don't know why, it's just a small habit for me. So for the first step, rearrange to make x squared positive. X squared is already positive, so that's fine. Okay, so we're going to highlight less than 0. Okay, so just to make sure, just so you know, we're using less than 0 line. Next, we're going to solve the quadratic equation to find the roots. So we're going to make it equal 0 to find the roots. Okay, so we're going to factorize it into x minus 3, x plus 8 equals 0. So x equals 3 or x equals minus 8. Okay, so we've done that. Step 3, draw the graph. So draw the graph. So it's a positive x squared. So therefore, I'm going to make a U shape. It crosses the x-axis at minus 8 and 3. So something like this, negative 8 and 3. Now, it doesn't matter where you position the sort of the U-shaped parabola, as long as you're crossing the x-axis once on the negative side and once on the positive side. So what I'm trying to say is you can do it like this if you want to. Make it really wide on right and make it really narrow on left. It doesn't really matter. This is a sketch. Next. Inequality is less than 0, so therefore we follow the last line here, less than 0. So we highlight the section below the x-axis. Okay. Next, to explain this range of values between 8 and 3 is a one-line answer. We're going to write inequality is negative 8. Now, because less than, there's no equal sign there, so we'll just follow the x less than 3. So if we're highlighting between -8 and 3, the answer will be a one line like this. X is between -8 and 3. In other words, x could be any values between -8 and 3, but not including -8 and 3. So it could be -7, -6, -5, etc., all the way up to maybe 1 and 2. All right. Question B. Let's try to do this. -2x squared minus 5x plus 3 less than or equal 0. Now the first step, this time x squared is not positive. So we're going to bring everything, we're going to bring this to the right hand side, but everything has to follow to the right hand side. So we're going to move everything to the right hand side. Okay, so if I move the minus 2x squared to the right hand side, now I'm going to keep the sign in here less than or equal to. Minus 2x squared to right hand side becomes positive. Minus 5x to the right hand side becomes positive. Plus 3x becomes negative. Now what about left hand side is 0. Now note one thing, you cannot simply change the sign into negative, into positive, positive, negative, because the sign will have to follow. Next, if you don't like the 2x squared on the right hand side, we're going to flip it. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this by putting the x squared on the left hand side. So 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 is greater than or equal 0. Now this step is optional, but I tend to like to put the x on the left hand side. So this is now greater or equal 0. Okay, so we're not using less than or equal 0 because in this inequality, after we rearrange, the positive x squared is greater or equal 0. Okay, now the way we do the positive x squared is so that when we draw the graph, it's always a U shape. So the next step is to solve it. To solve it, we're going to make it equal 0. Okay. Now, if this is a calculator paper, of course, you can use a quadratic formula. But if it's not, we can factorize it as well. To factorize it, we do 2 times minus 3. So we need a product that multiply to be -6 and add to give a positive 5. So you can have 1 and 6 and 2 and 3 to make them to multiply 6. But to add them, you probably need a -1 and positive 6. So we're going to split the middle term into minus 1x and plus 6x minus 3 equals 0. If you struggle to factorize harder quadratics, go back to the previous video. I think it's on grade 7, if I'm not mistaken. And then what we can do is we can factorize left and right. So x in here, 2x minus 1 plus factorize of 3, x 2x minus 1 again equals 0. If you do it correctly, your two brackets in here should equal the same, should be the same. Then you can group these and x plus 3 together, and 2x minus 1 together equals 0. So x equals minus 3. Or, now this one, if you're not sure what x will be, you can make 2x minus 1 equals 0. Rearrange the minus 1, become 2x, so 2x equals 1. And then x equals, divided by 2, a half. So after we solve that, we need to draw the graph. Yes, draw the graph, my favorite line. So x is minus 3.5. That means crossing the x-axis both from negative and positive, like this, minus 3.5. Now our inequality is greater or equal 0. If it's greater or equal 0, we highlight the section above the x-axis. So we'll highlight the section above the x-axis. To represent these answers, the highlighted section, okay, so you can see the left side, first of all, if we think of it like a whisker, the left whisker is more on the negative side of minus 3. Therefore, x will be less than or equal to minus 3. Where does the equal come from? The equal sign in the inequality come from here, the original. If the question has the equal, put the equal. If the question does not have an equal, just leave it out. Okay, what about this one here? This right whisker is on the right side of a half. That means we'll say x greater or equal to a half. That means any number is bigger or equal to a half. And that's why I said if the answer is greater than, you can remember this line. Greater than the greatest. So it's greater than the greatest value. So between a half and minus 3, the greater value is a half. So greater than the greatest or smaller than the smallest. Smaller than the smallest. So this will be the what I said. Okay, greater than the greatest, smaller than the smallest, and less than 0. There will be a one-line answer. Here's one more example for you, but in case you are confident, but if you're confident, yeah, then have a go at the question. Treat it like a practice question. You can pause the video now, have a go, and when you're ready for the answer, you can press play. If you've done it, here's the answer. -2 less than equal to x less than equal to 5. Okay, right. So, but if you haven't got an answer, if you want to listen, then carry on. So first step, again, this is a negative x squared. We don't like x squared to be negative. Therefore, we bring everything to right hand side. So I start with greater equal to. So I'm going to follow a sign. I'm going to keep the sign in here. Bring this to right hand side and make it positive. Now, I'm going to put x squared first because I know when we do a quadratic, we like to put x squared in the first term. So negative x squared on the right hand side becomes positive x squared. Positive 3x to the right hand side becomes negative 3x. Positive 10 on the left hand side becomes negative 10 on the right hand side. Now the left side is just 0. I'm going to then rewrite the whole thing and put x squared on the left hand side. So x squared minus 3x minus 10 less than equal to 0. When you flip it left and right, you also flip the sign as well. So that's the first step. Okay, so therefore our inequality is less than equal 0. So I know my answer is going to be one line. Okay, just like I told you in the answer. How do you know? Because less than equal 0 is always a one line answer. So next we're going to solve the quadratic equation. Make it equal 0. So x plus 2, x minus 5 equals 0. So x equals negative 2 or x equals 5. Draw the graph. Minus 2 and 5 means crossing x-axis at negative 2 and 5. I need the inequality to be less than or equal 0. That means it's between minus 2 and 5 in here. So minus 2 and 5. So therefore, the answer will be a one line because between minus 2 and 5, when we say between inequality, it means minus 2 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 5. There's an equal sign there because in the question, there is an equal in the inequality as well. Okay, if the question was just a greater than, there would be a less than and less than in here. Here's the real fun begins. Have a go, pause the video for question 2, have a go at all the questions. When you're ready for the answer, you can press play. Here are the answers. Okay, so remember, when it's greater than or equal 0, it's greater than the greatest, smaller than the smallest. When it's less than 0, it's one line answer. So in here, question A, you can see the inequality is greater than greater equal to, so you know the answer will be broken into two parts. Greater to the greatest, smaller to the smallest. Part B, do a bit of rearranging. 4 bring the left hand side becomes a minus 5, less than 0, so therefore it will be one line answer. Question C, now it's a negative x squared. We don't like negative, so we'll bring to right hand side, bring everything right hand side to change the sign. So 0 is less than x squared minus 8x plus 15. We'll flip both sides. So this becomes x squared minus 8x plus 15. Okay. The way to remember is, if you don't remember how to flip it, the x side, whatever sign you see on the x side, you're going to follow it. So you can see there's a wide opener. It's a wider opening on the, some people call it crocodile sign. So the x side has a wider opening of the crocodile sign. And then, yeah, so greater than 0 means the answer will be broken in two parts. Greater than greatest, smallest than smallest. Same as part D. I'll let you read it. And then part E. Yeah. Here comes practice question 3. This time I give you the question in context of area. Pause the video, have a go with the question. When you're ready for the answer, you can press play. Here are the answers. We are told the area is at most 88 centimeters squared. At most means less than or equal to. Okay, so that means anything that you can't get bigger than 88, but you could equal to 88, so therefore less than or equal to 88. So when you multiply them, you can either just leave as a bracket less than or equal to 88, or you can expand the bracket and bring it 88 left hand side minus 91 less than or equal to 0. Both are perfectly fine. Question B, to solve the inequality. Now this time you've got a calculator, so it means I want you to use the quadratic formula. So to solve the 2x squared minus x minus 91 equals 0, your a is 2, your b is minus 1, your c is negative 91. So when you do the formula, so negative b minus b plus and minus b squared minus 4ac. Don't forget a negative in front of the 91 in the c over 2a. Put in a calculator, when you should get negative 6.5 or 7. So therefore, and then you're going to draw the graph because the x squared graph is less than 0, so we're going to minus 6.5 and 7. Less than 0 means we highlight the part underneath. So the answer will be between negative 6.5 and 7. To work at the maximum possible length and width of a rectangle, you're going to take the maximum value of x. So x is a value between negative 6.5 and 7. To find the maximum, we let x to be 7. So question C, so when x is 7, 2 times 7 minus 3, so 14 minus 3 is 11, and then x plus 1 for the width, 7 plus 1 is 8 centimeters.